What is up, everybody? Eagles get the dub 22-16, 9 straight wins, 11-2 on the season. Some good, some bad. We're breaking down the offense, the defense, Jalen Hurts. Eagles game in 3 words or less. Joining us here is Shane Haff. Go give him a shout out on X at Shane Haff NFL. What's up, Shane?
I don't know how to feel right now about that game. I'm not sure how to talk about that game. I guess we'll see where this goes.
Yep. I have a feeling the comments are going to be just a little more negative than positive today. Also joining us, he is Johnny Page at Johnny Page 9 on X. What's up, Johnny? You're muted, man.
Good start to the post game. I was using a fancy little keyboard shortcut and it didn't work. So welcome to the post game show. Yeah, I've sort of forgotten how to do this, guys. I'm going to be honest. And I was watching the game halfway through. Like I was trying to take notes, and then the notes went out the window, and I just got very stressed. And I'm now desperately trying to look up things that I sort of wanted to note down earlier on. But yeah, the Eagles won, so that's good. I think the Panthers are a lot better than they were at the start of the year, so I don't think we should take for granted that they won. But it was the way they won was a little bit scary. But yeah, we'll get into it.
Yep, absolutely, guys. If you're watching us live, make sure you're following Eagles Pin Pool on X. Comment with us. Definitely mixed feelings with this W. Cameron saying Giants playing for draft position right now. Carolina is better than their record. Everyone needs to chill. If Carolina has been playing like this all season, at least how they have played the last few weeks, they'd probably be a fringe playoff team at this point. They've been playing solid, competitive football. Tomas says horrible decisions by Jalen Hurts. Passing offense completely stale. That has to be the biggest cause for concern at this point in time heading into the postseason. We're going to get into it. Carolina's been playing well. The end of the game management was just a mess. The NFL officiating continues to be a mess. The Eagles cannot buy a penalty at this point. Eagles win 11-2. I'll throw it to you, Shane. Let's start with Jalen Hurts. 14 of 21, 108 yards, 2 touchdowns. He also had 61 yards on the ground and a touchdown, took 4 sacks. Some good, some bad, some big third down conversions. But overall, this was not Jalen Hurts' best game.
No, it wasn't. This is probably his worst passing game of the year, in my opinion. And he made a really good throw on that last drive to convert that 3rd and 13, I think it was, to A.J. Brown. That was a nice anticipation throw that we're used to seeing him make. But time after time throughout the game, it seemed like he was turning down throws that were open because they would have been tight windows. And I'm not sure why he was doing that. That's not what we typically see him do. I don't know. It was weird. It felt like he was a little gun shy today, and he had some nice rushing attempts. He makes that nice throw to A.J. Brown. Even the touchdown to Dallas Goedert, like the Eagles ran crash, which I talk about all the time because the Eagles love it in the red zone, but it's an in route to the outside receiver that was A.J. Brown, and it's like that rounded corner route to the inside receiver, and A.J. Brown was open there. He throws that ball to A.J. Brown all the time, and he didn't. And, I mean, it's a good job progressing to the backside, finding Goddard, but it's just windows that he would normally throw into that he wasn't willing to attempt today. And honestly, I'm not really sure why that is. I don't think it's that he wasn't seeing things. He just seemed a lot more tentative today.
Yeah, it seems like he left a lot of plays on the table. It feels like he's just so worried about turning the ball over that it kind of messes up his timing, and his decision-making just takes way too long. I don't know about you, Johnny. What were your thoughts on Jalen Hurts' performance today?
Yeah, probably the least impressed I've been with him in a while. I'm struggling to judge the QB and the scheme like separate. I don't know. There are definitely plays that he misses, and that's always been the case. And every quarterback misses plays. There was one in the first quarter. I can't remember what play it was. It was really early on. I think it was a 2nd down, and I think it was Sanchez, wasn't it? The broadcast today, and he was commenting like there was 2 quick ins, and it was Devontae and AJ, and it was just like open. And he didn't throw it, and that's a little bit concerning. Last week was the week that I really started to worry about how he plays early on in games. It feels to me like he really does struggle early on, and it's becoming a bit of a joke, obviously, all season about the first drive, but it's not just the first drive; it's quite often the first 2 drives. So I don't know. It looked to me like he left some stuff out there. I also think his mobility bailed the Eagles out a couple of times because I think they had some really bad calls at times as well. But there's a part of me that, and I've said this for a long time, basically every article for Bleeding Green over the past 6 weeks, and sometimes I've had comments saying I'm negative. The passing game just doesn't look right. Like it's very hard for us to like allocate blame, but it just looks to me like something is missing every week. And I know every week someone's missing. It's got it today, but I think at some point you have to stop the excuses. I think I'm reading this right. Did they throw to AJ Brown 4 times today? Like
4 times, and they didn't target him until 1 minute and change remaining in the first half.
I'm looking at the EPA, and it's like Hurts had an EPA of 0.03, which is basically non-existent. Yet when you target AJ Brown, it's 1.18 per play. Sorry, that was like maybe if you're not targeting your best player, except for Saquon, then you're doing something wrong schematically. And you could also argue that Hurts isn't releasing it. But then late in the game, when it was like there was a massive clutch 3rd down, they lined AJ by himself, threw a deep comeback on 3rd down, and he got the 1st down. And you're like, just do more of that. It's a weird one. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the All-22 this one. I have a feeling it might annoy me. I think the other thing is they throw a low volume percentage of pass plays. I think that's something we sort of ignore, that maybe the focus is like, don't turn it over. Let Saquon carry the team. Just don't screw up. And maybe like they need to be a little bit more like adventurous with their passing game, because I don't know about you. I think the running game is as good as it gets in the NFL, but you're not going to win big playoff games against teams like the Lions without a better passing game. Like I don't think the run can just be the only the thing you can do well. But he doesn't really get many attempts to throw the ball. Like if you look at Jalen Hurts' attempts over the last month or so, it's not like other quarterbacks who are getting to run like 30, 40, 50 plays. We're not really running that many passing plays. So maybe there's like an element of they're trying to do too much, or they're trying to run similar things that are happening. I've got a lot to say about the RPO stuff as well, that I'm so like up and down with. Sometimes I love it, sometimes I hate it. Whatever the analysis is, who you blame, Kellen Moore, receivers, scheme, it's not really a very good passing game right now.
I'm personally way more worried about the lack of execution and the play calling. That's just me. Go ahead, Shane. Sorry.
I'd say at the end of the day, with AJ Brown and Devontae Smith on the field, the Eagles had a 38% success rate throwing the football against a Carolina defense that is not that good. That's concerning. And Johnny raises a good point about maybe you're just being told to play conservative and let Saquon carry it. And I mean, I distinctly remember last year having a conversation with Mark on Chalk Talk about CJ Stroud when the whole thing was going on about CJ Stroud hadn't thrown an interception and he was like setting a rookie record or whatever. And I kind of said that, maybe Stroud would be performing better if he had a few more turnover worthy plays. Like try to make a few of those throws that you're turning down. And that's kind of how I feel about Hurts now. Like you want to take care of the ball and you don't want to be reckless, but there's a fine line between like, don't be reckless and be too tentative. And I think Hurts has done a really good job of walking that line. Today, I thought he was way too far on we're just not going to do anything that could remotely put the ball at risk line. And you look at the outcome. It's hard to win a game that way. You've got to be willing to take some shots, to try to fit some balls in downfield. And 3 of the Eagles' last 4 games, Hurts has had a tremendously low, I think it's like a sub 6 yard average depth of target in 3 of the last 4 games. And that's just going to be hard when you're constantly throwing underneath, you're constantly taking to check downs. Like when's the last time we saw a deep ball to AJ Brown? I mean, I guess they tried one on the opening drive or second drive when they hadn't completed a pass yet last week, but we're just not seeing that anymore. And so they need to balance that out. Like don't turn the ball over, but also don't be so cripplingly afraid of it that you only put up 22 points against the Panthers.
Yeah, it's funny how like the complaints, Shane, haven't they, about going down the field too often have very much gone away. Just to your right, I just looked it up. Like, I know you mentioned interception. So he threw obviously 4 in the first 3 weeks or something. Since then, he's thrown 1 or something over the past 9. I mean, he's basically not turning over, but his attempts are so low. He started off the season with 34, 30, 38, and 30. So since then, 28 is his highest. That was Washington 3 weeks ago. Except for that, he's only got 1 other game over 25. So when we're talking about concepts and spreading the ball around, they're not really just throwing the ball very much. And And it does make it a little tricky to like really judge everything they're doing, because it is quite unusual in the NFL in 2024 to have such a small amount of passing volume. But yeah, I thought that's worth mentioning. Like the interceptions just aren't a factor anymore, and maybe they've got to be a bit more expansive, Shane. But then they keep winning, so maybe Nick Sirianni's going to say, well, actually, do you know what? We'll be more expansive in the playoffs, and for now, don't put the ball in harm's way because Saquon is so good and the run game is so good. We don't need it. My criticism would be that they scored 22 points today. So as good as you think the running game is, it's not like you're killing a bad Panthers team. But and with you, Dives, I think they could have scored more today if they play cool. I didn't think the play calling was great today. There was a lot of examples of it. Almost seemed like they had to throw the ball because they had to throw the ball. Like there were some times I was like, just run it. Basically run it until they actually show they can stop it. And I didn't really see the Panthers stop the run at all. The Eagles almost like, we have to throw it to mix it up. We can't just run. And I was like, well, you sort of can unless the other team stop it. So yeah, there was a few examples I won't get into right now, but I thought play calling was an issue as well, Dives. I agree with you.
Yep. Chris says Hurts' fear of turnovers has made him skittish. That's kind of been the blueprint, like Johnny said, of the Eagles' wins. Like Jalen Hurts not shooting himself in the foot. I think he's only got 3 turnover-worthy plays the last 6+ weeks. Something like that. Jake Elliott equals Justin Tucker. I don't understand why all these kickers are forgetting how to kick all of a sudden. It's unbelievable. Jalen only threw 7 passes in the second half. I agree, Johnny. I feel like when they did commit to Saquon and they didn't phase him out, they were getting good amount of yards, 7 yards, 11 yards, 7 yards. And then they just went away from it. Is Kellen Moore a good coordinator? I'll throw this to you, Shane. Is their lack of a passing game starting to catch up to the Eagles? Because I think the storyline is the offense. At the end of the day, the Panthers did have a chance to take the lead in this one, but they only had 16 points. The Eagles' lack of a passing attack going up against a Detroit Lions team in the postseason, this team has to figure out how to play 4 quarters.
Yeah, the Eagles in the first half had a 39% rushing success rate. In the second half, they had a 76% rushing success rate. So the run game got going, and that helps cover up some things. At the end of the day, I think the Eagles threw for 38 yards in the second half, though. 108 yards on the day. And I mean, yeah, I think Moore's a good coordinator. He's not a great coordinator. If he was a great coordinator, he would have had head coach offers by now. And there's some warts there. There's times where he tries to get too cute, and there's been some run game issues throughout his career. I think him being paired with Stoutland helps that out a lot, because Stoutland designs the Eagles' run game. But he's been criticized for years for his spacing concepts and things like that, how he plays too horizontal. And I think you see some of those things, but I just don't think the primary issue today was on play calling. And, we'll go back and look at it and maybe have a different answer by the midweek once I've watched the film. But at the end of the day, like Johnny said, the slow starts are an issue. And last week it was hard to come on here and say that because you spotted the Ravens 9 points in the whole first quarter, and then you beat them, and they're an AFC contender. Well, this week you almost lost to the Carolina Panthers, who are a 3-win football team. And yeah, they're playing better now than their record shows, but that's not a game, especially at home, that you should have that difficulty with. And 13 games into the season, I don't know if you're fixing that. I don't know if you're just magically going to become a better first quarter team by the time you get to the playoffs. And so, I don't know what you do about that, other than hope your defense continues to clamp down in games and that your offense comes alive later. And that didn't really happen today, but they're able to sustain it and they get out with the win. And this was a very 2023 win feeling from the 2024 team. And we have a lot of evidence the 2024 team is better. And so I don't think people need to be overboard with that. And you can consider that you're coming off a huge win against the Ravens and you're heading into a huge game against the Steelers, and you can get into the whole trap game discussion and some of that stuff as well. Maybe that comes into play. And so I don't think people should overreact because we have a large sample size of the Eagles being a very good football team. Hopefully it's just a blip on the radar that we see them snap right back next week.
Dives, can I just say, finally, before we shut back Kellen Moore, I think as well, as fans, you always judge a team based on what you expect. And I think the Eagles are now Super Bowl contenders because they're very, very good, which means we judge them differently to like other fans of teams. I found the drive. It was funny enough, it was Eagles touchdown drive. I don't know if this was just me, but I found myself getting very annoyed. So it was the one where Sanchez pointed out they had 3 great runs in a row. So it was Saquon for 11 yards, Saquon for 15 yards, Hurts for 8 yards. And it was perfect. It was like run, and then they took a deep shot on 2nd and 2. They messed up protection, and this offense in general has too many miscommunication errors as well. There's at least 3 or 4 a game. When you're only throwing the ball 24, 25 times a game, you can't have issues with communicating or like pre-snap stuff. Like that's like 20% of the time almost when you think about it. Like that's not good. And then Jalen Hurts took a sack on 2nd and 2, and it wasn't his fault. And I don't have the all 22, so I might be wrong. But it looked like there were 3 receivers on one side of the field going deep and nothing short. And I'm like, you've just run the ball 3 times in a row very successfully, and it's 2nd and 2. And I know you want to take a deep shot. And I know 2nd and 2. We got this chat, Shane, in the I know you don't see it during the game, in the Patreon Discord. I said that, and someone said, yeah, but isn't 2nd and 2 a great time to take a shot? And I said, well, yeah and no. It depends on the context. I just didn't think they didn't need it.
Not
like,
when you're throwing the ball like you were today.
Yeah. And they didn't need it. It was 11 yards, 15 yards, 8 yards. They were killing them. And then all of a sudden, you're 3rd and 8, or 3rd and 10 even, because you take 8 yards on a sack. And that wasn't Hurts' fault, the sack. The guy, Juggins, and I think it was Becton, got confused over protection. And then basically Hurts had to bail them out with a ridiculously good scramble on 3rd and 10. And they did score a touchdown on that drive. But that one in particular was the one that I was like, I just don't think you need to do that on 2nd and 2. I think you can just consistently run the ball. And maybe trying to be a little bit too clever.
Pass protection was really bad today.
It was really bad. And I was literally about to say that. Like some of our favorite guys didn't really play as well as we expect this
now,
week.
For what it's worth, I'm looking at the early PFF numbers, and they only charted 4 pressures allowed by the offensive line. And that does not line up with what I thought I was seeing. But I don't know. I'll have to go back and look later. But I felt like Hurts was under pressure frequently throughout the game. They're showing pretty good pass blocking grades and only 4 pressures allowed. So, but my eye test thought the pass blocking was pretty poor a lot of times today.
Yeah, this question is so difficult for me personally because the run game has been so amazing and dominant, and the pass game has been so bad. Like there's been so much up and down when it comes to Kellen Moore. When things are working, it looks great. When things are working, they go away from it. It's been just a up and down season for Kellen Moore. But if it was up to me, it would just be nothing but slants, crosses, and curls to AJ at the sticks, and the occasional play action, and then a delayed like run with Saquon Barkley, and just forget about it. And then just run the score up at that point. But we all know their weaknesses at this point. Let's get some comments real quick, and then we'll get to Saquon Barkley, who is now the Eagles single season leader. That's unbelievable, man. Cameron says Hurts isn't playing to win; he's playing not to lose. I like that a lot. That feels right on the money. Alex says good. We need a close game to wake them up. A little wake up call for Cooper DeJean as well. We'll get into that after we get done with the offense. Struggling this week before the Steelers is a good thing. More focus at practice. Evan says uninspiring win. Reed was missed on defense, especially for tackling. Bad tackling day for the defense today. PFF charted all our linemen high. I don't know about that. Like Shane said, AJ and Devontae seem to have spirited conversation on the sideline. There was one segment where you saw them together on the sideline, and it felt like they were talking about Jalen Hurts. Like, we're open. We're just not getting the ball. Hurts has to be perfect, or he's the worst quarterback. I fully agree with that. Let's go to anybody else have any comments on Kellen Moore or Jalen Hurts before we get on to Saquon?
Nope.
All right, Saquon Barkley, man, 20 carries, 124 yards. I don't know what else is to say about Saquon. I thought he had a terrific game in this one from start to finish. That's just me. My take on this game, I had higher expectations on the Carolina Panthers than some. I actually predicted the Eagles to win 23-16. I thought this was going to be a close game, unlike a lot of the fan base. So I expected this to be a tough win, especially with the Steelers game on the horizon. But Saquon did what Saquon does. He didn't have those breakout runs in this one, although it felt like it from the jump. I don't know about anybody else, but there were several times, first quarter, second quarter, where he was just missing some big runs. But at the end of the day, he is now the all-time single-season rushing leader for the Philadelphia Eagles. I'll throw it to you, Johnny, first. What were your thoughts on Saquon's day and going forward?
Yeah, I think he's an absolute superstar. Like, when people use the term lightly, but I don't think I've seen anyone move like him in forever. As in, just like a pure athlete at running back. Some of the things he does today, and he was so close to breaking a big one. They were so close. Like on another day, he has 22 carries for like 200 yards again. Like, my only criticism is 20 carries is just not enough, and I think the problem is the Eagles don't want to give him 30 carries against a bad Panthers team with the playoffs coming up, because, like, I don't know, it's a shame that Shipley obviously doesn't exist this year, because, to be honest, in Gainwell's look fine. Like, maybe they need to use Gainwell a little bit more. The Eagles could do with a blowout, and they could do with giving Saquon not 20 carries. He barely has negative plays. Like, I'm looking through, by the way, like the drive charts, just to annoy myself even more. And it's like, first drive, 8 yards. Then he doesn't have another carry. I know Gainwell came and there was some equipment thing, and the Eagles punt. Second drive, first play, 6 yards, and then the Eagles punt, and we don't give him the ball again. First play of the next drive, 7 yards, 12 yards. Like, I'd love to know, Shane, when you get into the stats, how many plays he had of negative yardage, or like less than 2. Because when you consider those 20 carries as well, about 4 of them must have come in the red zone at least. 1 of them on the 1 yard line. This is a really stupid question, but they count 2-point plays as stats as well, don't they? So that would also be one of his 20 carries.
I don't think those count as carries.
Do they not? Right. Fair enough.
I'm not positive, but I don't think like pass attempts. I don't think anything on a 2-point conversion enters.
Doesn't even give them the yards. Right. Fair enough. So 20 carries there? There was definitely one on the goal line, wasn't there? When they desperately tried to get the touchdown when he fell down to the one. But yeah, it felt like the Eagles ran a ton of counter today. We didn't see much under center stuff. We didn't get to see a new fullback, I don't believe, which was sad. But it seemed like a very basic running game, a lot of shotgun, a lot of counter, and it didn't look to me like the Panthers had any idea how to stop it. So I'm surprised that he didn't have 30 carries. I think half the problem is that they don't want to just completely wear him out, because it sounds a bit of a trope, but like, you could run him so much more if you wanted to, because the guy seems to break tackles on every single play.
Yeah. What about you, Shane?
Yeah, Johnny's right. So his stuff rate is 15% this season, which is 10th best in the NFL among running backs with 150 carries. His rushing yards over expectation, he is up to plus 480 yards rushing over expectation. He had 28 rushing yards over expectation today. That gets him to plus 480 for the season. Let's play a trivia game. In the last 7 seasons, Barkley's number 1 at plus 480. Who do you think is in second place and at what?
Jesus.
No, CMC at 210.
No, for the Eagles.
Oh, wait, how many?
In the last 7 years.
Miles Sanders.
Oh, my God.
Miles Sanders is in second place. How many yards over expectation do you think he has?
Oh, my gosh. Like
80.
200?
97.
Oh, my God. It's mad.
So,
mad.
And by the way, still, how many games left to go for Saquon? It's insane.
4. So he needs around the comment here, 121 per game. I am so weird about Saquon. Like, all these records and stuff, at the end of the day, and I know the Panthers had a horrible run defense. I know people want him to break all these records and get a ton of yards, but I also want him to kind of pump the brakes just a little bit, like Jalen Carter. Like, is it necessary, Johnny?
Jalen Carter needs to play less snaps.
I think Carter didn't play as much today. I did see one play without him. I did specifically notice that Milton Williams and Jomo were next to each other on one play, but that was one play.
A ton.
Did he still play a ton? Yeah.
Yeah, he played 64 out of 71 snaps.
Yeah. The Eagles are in a weird position where they're competing for the 1 seed, and even though they win every week, and it's like the Lions don't lose. But the thing is, though, Dives, is Saquon just doesn't look any more tired at all. Yeah. He doesn't look like he's slowing down in the slightest. But obviously you increase your chance of injury. The more carries you have, the more you play. Just basic, like you're on the field more, so more likely to get hit, etc. If the Eagles could win early and then just let him rest, that'd be great. But I also think there is like this thing around Saquon, and I think they want to get him in numbers as well. But he doesn't show any sign of wear and tear, like at all at the moment. But I'm like you. My personal philosophy on backs is I like lead backs. I don't like running back by committee. Just personally, I think one guy needs to get going. But I also admit that like one guy doesn't have to have 25 or whatever every week. It could be like a 15 to 18 game every so often.
There was one run play. It's so funny too, right? Like, I'm just like talking in general about the offense. Like the Saquon and the offensive line and their run blocking is so elite. It's so elite. We just need the pass protection to just like get to here. Because there was one play where the entire left side of the line, Mailata, Dickerson, and Juergens literally were like 5-10 yards down the field. All of them. Saquon wasn't touched at all. I can't wait to watch that play when we get to. But the push they got in the second half was outstanding.
In the next gen stats era, no running back has ever finished a season with more than 400 rushing yards over expectation. Saquon's at 480. Also, Derrick Henry is at 420, so they're both going to hit it unless they fall off massively. But do you know who the closest guy to 400 rushing yards over expectation is?
This year or all time?
In the next gen stats era, so it goes back to 2017.
Saquon Barkley.
Saquon Barkley.
Adrian Peterson. Oh.
As a rookie in 2018, Saquon Barkley was at plus 395.
He's a freak. I feel like the media attention of him is a little bit like laughable in terms of like, the last week annoyed me a little bit, like how the cameras were just on Barkley and Henry all the time as if they're playing against each other. But Saquon's a legitimate freak. Like I've never seen a running back like this season personally. I can't quite believe how good and how explosive he looks. What can you say?
It's a really bad year for the running backs don't matter argument when the two big free agent signings, Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley, are like shattering next gen stats records.
Yeah.
Alex says, who's most likely to choke in the playoffs? I don't even want to talk about that.
The Cowboy? Wait.
Yeah.
They're not going to be there. Never mind.
Dean and McCollum were worked today, mostly to Gene.
McCollum had a rough game too. It was pretty rough.
The guy with the line in the back of his jersey, I don't know who that guy was, but he was pretty good. Anyway.
Wait, what? Say that again?
I was never.
Oh, Adam Thielen?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Adam, you want to know how old Adam Thielen is?
Oh my gosh. Mid-30s?
He's 34. Adam Thielen was like my cash cow last year, betting over Adam Thielen receptions every week because he's the only receiver the Panthers had, and Bryce Young would just throw in the ball like 15 times a game.
Thielen was awesome, man. He was good. It was basically Hubbard, Thielen, and Bryce Young just making plays for that entire offense. He's a bigger Barry Sanders, the way he creates something out of nothing. Vontae Maddox was so bad they threw out a concussed CJGJ out there instead. All right, let's get on to the receivers. We're already 30 minutes into this thing. AJ Brown 4 for 43, Devontae 4 for 37 and a touchdown. Calcaterra got his first NFL touchdown today, 3 for 16. Saquon Barkley only had one target in the passing game. Lead us off, Shane. What went wrong?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I've kind of talked about that with Hurts. I think it was more on Hurts and play design than on receivers. AJ Brown, 100% catch rate. Devontae Smith, that one pass breakup that I can't remember who it was for the Panthers had on that comeback route from Devontae Smith on the last drive. That was as good of a defensive back play as you'll ever see on one of those routes. Just like he played that perfectly. I was really impressed by that play, but thought AJ and Devontae Smith were fine. It's limited volume. Grant Calcaterra gets his touchdown. I just didn't really think there was much notable from receivers, honestly, to talk about this week. No spectacular plays, no Like, I thought they should have had this plays. It was just ho-hum, kind of like the whole passing attack, I guess.
Johnny?
Yeah, from behind, I hate NFL broadcasts because we get so few replays. But when they did show some replays, it didn't really look like there was many guys that were open. There was like there was a couple, but there was a few down the field when I was watching guys. It looked like the Panthers' defensive backfield played pretty well. I don't really know what's saying about Jahan Dotson at this point either. He had a target early on. Was it really early? And I was like, target early on. There's just not enough mouths to feed. But I know we've said it before, but the way they throw. But oh my God, imagine getting traded to a division rival and literally doing nothing. Like, that's got to be rough. Here's a weird statement to make, and I felt this on the Devontae Smith. They had the one on the goal line where they ran from under center. There was play action. They threw it to Devontae, and Devontae got tackled. There's a part of me, and I know we don't use AJ Brown like this, but could we use AJ Brown a little bit more? Like, he's basically only vertical, comeback, or like digs. We don't use him in the screen game at all. We don't try and get him yards after the catch at all. We don't throw him any short throws to just like go and break a tackle. And it may be that he's not elusive enough to really do that. But that Devontae Smith play, I found myself wondering, does AJ Brown run through that defensive back and score? And I feel like does AJ Brown run through that defensive back and score? Like, Devontae Smith is like almost like the little bit of the more gadgety player. And that was the one concern I had when they signed Dotson, is that Dotson isn't that kind of a player either. I think that's one thing maybe the receiving group lacks, is a guy who can win on those bubble screens and stuff. But like AJ Brown, whenever they throw it to him, just seems amazing, and they just don't throw him the ball enough. But yeah, it was a thought I had. Could they use AJ Brown a little bit more in the short game? It would take away snaps from Devontae Smith though, and they're not getting many targets anyway. But I think I've said this many times, in my head, it's not 1A, 1B, it is 1 and 2. I think AJ Brown is better, as good as Devontae is. So maybe some of those shorter routes they could have given some to AJ. That was a weird take I had when I was watching.
Maybe they just need to Deebo Samuel AJ Brown a little bit and just put him in the backfield and get him the ball. Like, if you're not going to throw the ball because you're right. Like, he's not elusive, but he's so hard to tackle. Like, I've seen him break so many tackles on those comeback routes and things. Like, is that safety coming in and chopping down AJ Brown?
Well, that's what I mean. Yeah.
But I don't know. I think you got a better chance there I think Devontae Smith's more elusive, but AJ Brown's definitely got a better chance to run through that tackle.
Yeah. When you think about it, AJ has like nothing short, does he? I'm not going mad. In this offense, when was the last time you can remember a screen or a bubble? Like, AJ, he just doesn't get targeted on that stuff ever. It was just a thought I had watching.
Yeah. I also don't like the routes that Devontae runs as well. Like, I feel like he's better than that. And they did run the one screen to Devontae with AJ Brown blocking on his side. I don't even know, man. Most of my complaints come with Kellen Moore. Like, Saquon Barkley, 1 target in this kind of game is ridiculous. Kenny Gainwell had more targets than Saquon Barkley. I don't understand. This is a confusing one for sure. You could tell AJ was getting mad. At what point does AJ start crying on the sideline? I can't believe they didn't even try a fade to AJ. Stop blaming everyone else but the quarterback. Given Moore's history of managing the Cowboys offense with loaded weapons, I'm shocked at how bad they are at spreading the love. And all we see are curl routes. There was one play where it was like a 3rd and long, and it was a curl route for everybody, and it was all like 5 yards or something along those lines. There's just a lot of things like that just infuriate me. Alex says, are we sure Sirianni didn't call his offensive game? That's just – anyway. Brian coming in with the donation with the $5. Thanks, Brian. You're the man, pump man. When was the last time Jalen Hurts made a quick decision? The guy causes so many – ineligible man downfield. Hurts is inept, not contenders.
Can I talk about this quickly? Can we talk about the RPO stuff?
I disagree with this completely, but go ahead.
Yeah, I disagree with the quick decision stuff. But the ineligible man, I think Sirianni was going mental about this earlier on, like absolutely mental. I'm pretty sure it was when he was talking to, and I think they said he was talking to the refs at halftime. And I wonder if it was about this play as well. like Shane, you tweeted something that I disagreed with. Dun, 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 dun. You said about the he should have just thrown it away because it would be a penalty on one of the RPOs where he took the sack. So you do lose a down, don't you? Isn't it a 5 yard? Because I thought you lost a down still.
No, ineligible man downfield is not a loss of down. It's just a 5 yard penalty. Intentional grounding is a loss of down, but on that play, he was outside the tackle box. It was real similar to a play last week where he threw it as he was going out of bounds. And they flag it for an eligible man downfield, but it's either you accept the penalty and it's 1st and 15, or if you decline it, it's just an incomplete pass and it would be 2nd and 10. So he ends up sliding down. I think it was for a 9 yard loss. So,
yeah, well, I think it was a. The reason why I was mentioning that play was that to me is a great example of I talk a lot about the minor details of like coaching and like basically if you're running an RPO and you don't hand it off to Saquon because you're going to throw a slant to AJ Brown, and then you go to throw it and Hurts literally goes for it, sees he's not open, and then starts running to the right. There is literally no point running to the right, is there? There is nothing you can do. You can't throw it because the linemen are downfield. You can't keep it yourself because the play's all out of whack. So basically, that needs to be a coaching point, doesn't it? If AJ Brown's covered, just throw it over his head. Like, don't throw it so you're going to get called for a penalty. But you know what I mean? You can throw it into the dirt. You can throw it at the guy's feet. There's got to be something you can do. Because I watched that play and just thought, that's not a well-coached play. That's not a play that we should be seeing. I don't see good offenses do that around the league. The second you don't hand it off, the throw might not be on. And then the second the throw's not on, then it's like, what do? You've got a completely busted play. You're basically going to lose 5 yards or get sacked. There has to be something else built in, is my point. You can't run a play where there's nowhere to go if you don't take the initial read, because otherwise you're basically hoping that AJ Brown's free. Yeah, Cameron Coleman is just saying throw it at his feet. But that's got to be a coaching point, because I've never seen Hurts do that. So if he's not doing it, someone's got to be in his ear telling him on RPOs, if you keep it and the guy's not open, you need to ground it. And he never does. So either he's ignoring the coaches, which I find unlikely, or they're not looking at every single detail on that play. And if you're going to run it, you've got to be better. We're in week 14. You can't be doing that in week 14.
Yeah. Comment on the AJ Brown depth of target. Among 59 receivers with at least 55 targets this season, AJ Brown has the 9th highest depth of target at 13.6 yards. So on average, AJ Brown's being targeted 13.6 yards downfield.
Yeah, this week wasn't a usual week, was it? To be fair, they do go deep a lot.
Pumpman says Hurts can't throw, and what? I think there was one more comment. Maybe not. But thanks for the donation, Pumpman. You're the man. Let's go into. Well, we talked about the receivers. Are we ready to go into the defense?
Yes. Yeah. We're going around in circles on some of these 0 points, aren't they? That they all connect at the point of we're not sure what the passing game is doing, basically.
Yeah.
Robert says good teams find ways to win. This felt like the Cardinals game of last year a little bit. A win's a win. I'll say it. I haven't said that a lot this season. I did say it a lot in 2023, but here we are. Let's go to the defense. Struggling tackling in this one. Zach Bond was unbelievable. 11 tackles. Nakobe Dean had a great game, 12 tackles. That being said, they missed a lot of tackles. I feel like Hubbard was kind of getting whatever he wanted in some parts of this one. And when you get to the pass rush, I feel like there were times when the pass rush was there. They just could not get home to save their lives against Bryce Young. And for the most part, like the Panthers had a lot of 3rd and longs in this game, and Bryce Young converted on way too many of them. Way too many. I'm not whatsoever panicking about the Eagles defense. That's the least of my concerns after this game. But it needs to be better. And we'll get into each one. But I'll throw it to you, Shane, first. Where do you want to go with the defense?
Yeah, I mean, the missed tackles were a concern. Saquon Barkley and Chuba Hubbard actually had the exact same amount of yards after contact. They each had 62, but it was a rough tackling day. PFF has the Eagles with 11 missed tackles, 3 by Jalen Carter, 3 by Tristan McCullum, 2 by Cooper DeJean, and then nobody else had more than 1. Yeah, it was a rough day for Cooper DeJean. I felt like he got several times by Adam Thielen. He missed some tackles. We've had a good body of work for him so far this year, so I'm not concerned about that. He's a rookie that had a bad game. Tristan McCullum had a rough game. Like you need Reed Blankenship back out there. And I was really concerned when Chauncey Gardner-Johnson exited the game, especially that second time when he looked like he was in a lot of pain. Because it's like, man, injuries are bad, but stacking injuries at one position is really bad. And you really don't want Tristan McCullum and Avonte Maddox to be your safeties out there. So survive some injury scares. I think I saw somebody left a comment that Jalen Carter looked gassed. And I've been talking about the amount of snaps he's playing. And I think it's going to become a problem if they don't start getting him some reps where he is off the field. And, you know, he didn't play every snap today, but he still played, what did I say earlier? 64 out of 71. It's too many snaps. Defensive linemen that aren't named Max Crosby don't play this many snaps consistently week over week. And especially a guy that's constantly drawing the double teams and things that Carter is. So I am concerned about that because if Carter doesn't win rushing the passer, I don't think the pass rush works very well with the injuries they have at the position. They got to figure out a way to manufacture some things and to get some rest for Jalen Carter because I am concerned about that as we go down the stretch here.
CJ Gardner-Johnson is making me look like an idiot right now. I was so critical of his play early this season.
You should have been. It was bad.
The last few weeks, he's been awesome. He's been solid. He had a hit, the interception, and so forth. We have a comment that Reed was missed. Absolutely. Gardner-Johnson was kind of the Reed Blankenship in this one. Johnny, any thoughts on the defense?
Yeah, quite a few, I guess. I'll go through defensive line quickly. Let's start with, I feel like the post-game show is where like we can get a hot take, sort of big hot takes out of the way, and I can just say stuff that could be wrong, and then I can correct myself in the week. So I've got some takes. I need to get better at bringing takes out on the show, so I'm going to give you a couple. I am not impressed at the moment with Jalen Hunt as a pass rusher, and I think that people maybe get a little bit ahead of themselves because he had a couple of nice snaps. And I think we're forgetting, like, he played some numbers today, didn't he? Like, Shane, I don't know if you got snap counts in front of you, but he looked like he played a lot, like 30 plus snaps.
38 snaps.
38, like
19
I know Bryce
pass
Huff's
rush,
injured.
1 coverage, 18 run defense, was charted with 2 pressures.
Yeah, see, I'm surprised he got 2 pressures, and fair enough, I might be wrong, but there was a couple of snaps that I watched him, and I'm just like, he's not a pass rusher yet. Like, he looks pretty easy to block. And I think that's just an issue in general. I think Jalen Carter played fine, but I think he is probably going to start feeling it a little bit. And let's go for a bit of a spicy take. Jordan Davis today, didn't notice him. And the Panthers ran the ball very well down the middle, and the Panthers offensive line had a lot of push. And that's the kind of week when I'm like, where's my big 300+ pound defensive tackle? I didn't really see him show up. In fact, I thought the defensive line got pushed quite a lot in the run game, to be honest. I think the Panthers won the battle up front. I think Milton Williams and Ajomo and Carter had splash plays. How many did Davis play, Shane, as well? Sorry, I'm just grilling stats questions.
25 snaps. One stop. That's not tackles, that's stops. He had 1 stop.
Yeah, I didn't notice him much out there. And I think we saw the Eagles. I think this is the biggest they've missed Brandon Graham. I know it's not been long, but they missed BG a lot out there. They tried to go a few 5-6 man fronts, and Josh Sweat was the guy that was getting kicked inside. But Josh Sweat's not a sort of like hybrid defensive tackle edge. He is an edge. So you can kick him inside. He can do a job there schematically, but he's not going to actually make plays in the run game. Brandon Graham, you can kick him inside, and he will actually blow up plays in the run game. So, yeah, the run game was a bit more of a concern for me. Safety, like, who cares? As bad as it is, they've got a lot of injuries there. It sucks that Sidney Brown wasn't healthy today because that was his one chance. And that's so frustrating when Blankenship's out and Sidney Brown to not be healthy. But I'm not overly worried about the secondary. I'm more worried about the defensive line in this week because there are issues there, I think, without Brandon Graham. I think asking Jalen Hunt to play 38, was it you said?
Yeah.
That's a lot. Like, this is a weird criticism, but he made a play in space, Jalen Hunt, that was really, really good. Like, you might remember the one that I'm talking about where he chased down Bryce Young.
Yeah.
I think Bryce Young was running out to the right and Jalen Hunt tackled him on the sideline. And this is a really weird thing to say, but I watched that play and I was like, you don't look like an edge. I know he's a safety's body as an edge, but I'm watching that play. I'm like, that's almost too good. Like, if Josh Sweat's out on the edge, he's not dealing with Bryce Young. Bryce Young's running straight past him. But to an extent, you've got to be a little bit bigger. But yeah, what else can you say about the linebackers, man? Bourne and Nakobe Dean. I thought Zach Bourne was awesome. Did Quinion Mitchell get targeted? Did he?
He had a few plays, but the one memorable play was when he didn't fill in his gap. And
yeah, the goal line. I don't know. Maybe I'm a bit old-fashioned and a bit soft on my cornerbacks. I'm like, if you're expecting your rookie quarterback who wrecks everyone in pass coverage to come up and blow up a bulldozing running back on the 1 yard line as well, and I don't think it's going to happen. Like, I'm a bit like Darius Slay in that. Once I make a tackle, I'm instantly worried about him getting hurt rather than his run coverage ability. And yeah, Cooper DeJean just got worked. Like, Adam Thielen's a vet. He's an incredibly good route runner. I thought schematically he was blitzed a lot, and they played a lot of 5-man pressures, which meant they played a lot of single high. And I think they played quite a bit of man coverage. The one call that really annoyed me was it 4th down on the last drive when Adam Thielen had that big catch and the Eagles blitzed, and I'm pretty sure it was McCollum one-on-one with Thielen on that play in man coverage. And I was like, yeah, there's no chance there. But it seemed like Vic was frustrated today. He sent some pressure. I think he was. I don't think he enjoyed today's game very much.
No,
I've got the feeling he was quite frustrated with that performance, just like we were.
Yeah, I tweeted that out on the last drive. I was like, Vic is so frustrated right now. You can tell when he just starts blitzing. He's just going to send them. He goes on tilt sometimes.
Yeah, the Panthers were 7 of 16 on 3rd down, 3 of 5 on 4th down, and 2 of 2 in the red zone. And this was a team that kind of like previous weeks against Eagles opponents that they were struggling, shooting themselves in the foot, missing field goals, moving the ball down the field, and then kind of struggling in the red zone. I agree with the previous comment that the Panthers are better than their record indicates. I am a little concerned, and there's an ounce of me. Like, I'm not concerned about the defense. The defense will be fine. But there is some concern that we saw some of the blueprint of how to beat the Eagles, especially in the second half. The Panthers were clearly playing keep away, and we saw a long drive after long drive after long drive. It maybe just gave me a little like PTSD of all the games the Eagles had against Washington in previous years, where the Washington offense just were on the field all the time, converting 3rd down after 3rd down, 3rd and manageable after 3rd and manageable. I'm just going to throw that out there. This is the first time I actually had those feelings, whereas in previous years, they were real. So there it is. They really haven't been a concern since Cooper DeJean has been on the football field.
Generally speaking, if your plan to beat a team is to go on double-digit play length drives and convert a new series of downs 10 of 16 times you get to 3rd down, I think the Eagles will take that because that's a really hard road to walk.
It's also a problem when you're playing 2 opponents with the refs and the opposing offense.
Yeah, I'm just like, sure, like in theory, that's a really good way to do it. It's just a hard road to walk. And I think the Eagles would be more than happy to play let's shorten the game and let's see who can run the ball better sort of plan. So I definitely see what you're saying. That's a hard road to walk, I think, for an opposing team.
I'll say as well that the other team plays as well, and I thought Bryce Young was awesome. I was really, really impressed. I didn't realize how mobile he was. There was a play when he juked Nakobe Dean in the open field, and I had flashbacks to Nakobe Dean tackling Jaden Daniels a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, wow, Bryce Young made him look like I don't think it was Nakobe Dean's fault. He was one-on-one in space, but yeah, any team can play. It's any given Sunday, isn't it? I think the Panthers did have some really good plays. I think one criticism of, and this is not a criticism actually, to be fair, that's a stupid take by me. It's a criticism of any defense in the world. There is no one that plays any sort of spot drop zone. that can live if the quarterback runs around for more than 5 seconds. Like, I think there's an argument that if you play like a Jim Schwartz man-to-man, you send 5 or 6, you're less likely for that to happen. If you play a style where you are meant to like match routes down the field, after 3 or 4 seconds, the play's over. So if you can't, and I think the Eagles had like good pass rush, but they couldn't finish at all. And I think when you can't finish and Bryce Young does that kind of thing, I don't think at that point you can blame the secondary. There's sort of like nothing you can do. And I think Bryce had a couple of really good plays, which, you know what? As much as I'm an Eagles fan, I'm happy for him because he's had an absolutely torrid time. Yeah, he's had a
I was a big Bryce Young fan.
Yeah, me too. Here's my QB1.
So I'm really happy to see him turn around. Like, he was having fun out there, man.
He loves it. Yeah.
He was your QB1. Couldn't be me. Don't ask me who mine was.
I think
Shane blacked out that draft year when it comes.
No. I still had CJ Stroud too, but I had Richardson 1.
Yeah, the guy. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, everyone wants a new Josh Allen, don't they? It's the modern NFL. It's also a good example to show you how much coaching matters and how much situation matters. Like, because that guy was as bad as it was. I was going to ask you. We don't normally do special teams. I know we're running long, but we've got to talk about it briefly, haven't we?
We got
Justin's brought it up.
At this point, the Eagles now have a legitimate issue going forward, especially on those like 3rd and 5s, 3rd and 7s, when they're on like the 35, 40 yard line. Like, where do we go from here, guys?
Like, they did say he's 0 for 5 on 50 plus this year, didn't they? Was that a comment that did I mishear that, Jake Elliott?
I'll look it up. He hasn't made one. I can't remember if it was 5 or.
I thought
it was
convinced 8. That it was like, guys on the stats, people who are listening to Mark Sanchez like me, someone with kicking numbers. Where's the kicking analytics? Is he 0 for 5? Yeah.
Yes.
Like, that's brutal.
What the hell?
Brutal. I know we go for it a lot. So we don't have many kicks that are 50 plus because we're quite happy to take the chance. But oh my god, there's going to be a playoff game. There's going to be a big game. Like, at least, like, Justin Tucker might be missing all the time, but he occasionally hits 0 for 5 is like, well, is what someone said. It's 0%. You can't get worse.
What did you guys think of the decision to punt the ball instead of trying? What would it have been, a 53-yard field goal? 53-yard field goal ends the game, essentially, would put you up by 2 scores with 3 minutes left. If you miss, you're giving him the ball at like the 43-yard line. What did you think of that call? Punt versus field goal?
I'm team punt.
I was in the moment. I was team punt.
Yeah, I was too. Analytics say go. I just don't trust Jake Elliott anymore.
Yeah, that's the thing.
I would have punted as well.
Yeah. Does analytics tell you that your? I mean, I'm sure some analytics guys can tell me yes, it does, but it doesn't take into consideration your kick is 0 for 5 this year. Yeah. You've also got the number 1 defense in the league, I guess. I mean, they have this year. They are the best. So it's like, if you're not going to trust your D at that point against Bryce Young and the Panthers, and by the way, they still did stop them, so it worked. So yeah.
I see. What was your reaction when Bryce Young hit? I forget who it was. Right over the fingertips of Darius Slay on that scramble and 3rd and goal.
Yeah, wasn't CJ still concussed at that point and just staring at the guy walking behind him?
There were many times in this game where I just thought this was a loss. I'll be honest. Like the one where there was a batted pass that went in the middle of the field, probably for like 10 seconds. I feel like I was watching it, and it went right into Thielen's hand. And there are things like that where this felt like a loss. Anybody else have that feeling?
Yeah. So I think in some ways it's good that they didn't, like, in a weird way. It's a sign of a good team that you can win when you don't play your best. But the original question, the kicker problem, like, I don't know if there's anything you can do about a kicker mid-season. I just think you roll with it. I think he's been okay, Jake Elliott, hasn't he, in when they've asked him to kick, but luckily they go for it on 4th a lot. Is it just me, or is kicking like crap around the league? Like, it's a bit weird. Like, what do you really do about it? Like, you can, if there's a guy on the street, he's probably not going to be there because he's any good. So I think you've got to just suck it up and deal with it now. But yeah, 0 out of 5, man. Jake Elliott's thing was long distance field goals. He was like the guy that would nail it from 56, then miss the extra point on the next drive. It's so weird. When they said that stat 0 from 5, my brain just went, what? Jake Elliott's not made a 50-plus yard field goal all season long. That seems like impossible. But yeah, there you go.
This season, he is 18 of 19 from under 50 yards, and he's 0 for 5 from 50-plus.
It's impossible.
Yeah, that is so weird, isn't it?
It makes no sense.
Weird.
Yeah.
All right. Julie Ertz might be better at kicking field goals at this point. My God. I love that comment.
I was fully prepared when I thought they were going to kick the field goal to screen record him hitting that field goal and tweet it out and say Jake Elliott's never missed a kick. But they didn't give him the shot.
All right. Any other comments on the defense before we get to player of the game?
This is a really long podcast for a
Panthers
game. Let's get into it.
Player of the game.
Don't throw it to me first.
Okay.
Saquon Barkley. He's it. He was the offense. So give me Saquon for player of the game. Sets the franchise rushing record, single season, still has multiple games left. So Saquon Barkley's the man.
Cameron says, how about man? Go ahead, Johnny.
Yeah, Zach Wilson. Star, total star. Like, sign him, pay him, get the checkbook out as you will. I don't mean the contract stuff scares the hell out of me. By the way, we're not going to get into it now, but I am terrified about Zach Wilson leaving. All these people are like, how he won't let him leave. I've seen Howie and linebackers. If anything, he'll go. It proves you can get one off the street. It proves Howie's point. You don't need to pay him big. But I'm terrified of losing Bourne. Like, I've not watched the good Eagles linebacker play on the All-22 my entire adult life. And I don't really want to go back to watching terrible linebackers stuck in the mud. So, yeah, I'll go Zach Bourne.
I guess I'll go C.J. Gardner-Johnson. He had a big hit, the interception, fought through injury in this one. Can't believe he came back, to be honest. When he got hit initially, like, his hands were up. Like, when I saw that, like, he's out. Like, that was an immediate off the field, into the locker room type of situation.
I thought he hurt his knee. Like, when he came in and it looked like he kind of got hit in the side of the leg and he was like rolling around and it looked like he was flexing his leg back and forth. I thought he like broke his leg or tore his knee up or something. So I was really glad to see him come back because I was really concerned about that.
I have not been a CJ GJ fan this season, and he's looked really good these last few weeks. Mostly just making plays. Like, that's why we brought him in. He's in here to make plays, and he's done that. Braden Mann, back-to-back weeks of big punts and big moments. Major shout-out to Braden Mann. Gave up another. Who gave up another? Did CJ? Yeah,
he did. He gave up that first one.
Yeah.
Vic was not happy about that. They definitely played that wrong, but we'll talk about that on a film show later.
We really missed Blankenship. Another game winning, tying the turnovers battle on this 9-game win streak. Huge. Still need that passing game to do something. Amen. Robster. Shane, lead us off, man. Let's get to Eagles 3 words or less.
All right. So every week we put out on Twitter our 3-word reactions to the game, and you guys chime in with a lot of those. So I'll run through a few here. Not as many as other weeks because this is already an hour long. But we had R. Crawford said, big play Slay. It was a rough game for Slay for part of the game, I thought, but he came up big on that last drive. Nathaniel says, be better Hurts. We got a no easy wins ? From John. A survive and advance from Scott. Elliot said, this is ironic. Elliot says, Elliot has the yips. And then down 3R20 said, pass to AJ. And so those are some of our 3 words from Twitter. You guys can drop them here in the comments as well. Somebody said earlier that they already knew what my 3 words was, and I'm curious what they thought because I'm still scrambling to try to think of what my 3 words is. But I'll go with blood. No, that's 4 words.
Wow.
I was going to say blood pressure coming down. Heart rate. Heart rate, 1 word. Heart rate coming down. There we go. I'm going to get the shakes. The shakes are going away now. But, man, that was a nerve-wracking game. And I don't feel like we've experienced one of those in a little while. So it's not the team I expected it to come against. But I was sweating that one out for sure.
King Tom the Bomb says Hurts too short. Alex says stay calm, fans. Tech says just beat Steelers. Passing still mid. I like that one a lot. Stay healthy, Eagles. Stop holding Carter. That might be my favorite one. Johnny, yet?
Win's a win. Let's go boring. Yeah, pretty self-explanatory. We can always pick Howells in. Pick Howells in it, but at the end of the day, the Eagles won. Winning in the NFL is hard, and it's an important win. So yeah, I'm going to try not to overthink this one too much, I think.
I'll go timely reality check. The Steelers are going to be a lot tougher.
That's good.
And they cannot afford to continue to kind of feel out the opposing team on defense. This offense has to start figuring it out with their passing attack, with A.J. Brown on the slants, the crossers, the comebacks, the curls, you name it, whatever. But they got to get A.J. involved. They got to get Devontae involved. And they got to get Saquon involved consistently and balanced. And I thought this was, on both sides of the football, a nice reality check for a team that's kind of feeling itself a little bit. And I thought coming in, the Panthers were a lot better than their record indicated, and it was true. But at the end of the day, this was top to bottom a much better football team. And it needs to be better, especially across 4 quarters. So Robster says, I do feel like they're holding back. Timely reality check. Okay. Anyway, is that it, Shane? I think we wrapped it up. I think we're ready to send this one into the moon.
Yeah, I just want to say that this reminds me a lot of a stretch in 2022, which, by the way, Eagles went to the Super Bowl. But the Eagles were 8-0. Going into a game against Washington, and it's actually a 3-game stretch where they played back-to-back 4-win teams, and they lose to Washington 32-21. They narrowly beat the 4-6 Colts 17-16, and then they got into that shootout 40-33 against the 4-win Packers. And stuff happens in the NFL, and so I don't think people should freak out over this game. It was a frustrating experience. Don't forget the Ravens win last week. Big win. Don't forget the Steelers game upcoming. And sometimes the game's just a game. So not worried other than health things. Hopefully the Eagles can get healthy and keep chugging along.
Yep. Shane, anything you want to plug?
Yeah, just check out the Eagles Pinpool Network. A lot of podcasts coming your way this week, building up to a Steelers game. We'll be recapping this one, talking college football, all the stuff. So wherever you're listening to your podcast, go download that. And that really helps us out.
What about you, Johnny?
No, not really. The usual. I think we'll probably get into the offense passing game a lot this week. So, I think Shane will talk off air, but we'll be going live Tuesday this week if Shane has remembered that I cannot record on my normal day. So that means we may be a little bit briefer. Not briefer as in time. That will never happen, but briefer as in what we watch. So I think offensive passing game will get a very big a chunk of the podcast this week. So, I'm looking forward to the All-22, despite the fact it's a bit of a weird game.
Oh. Yep. Cameron says, I think we all needed to talk it out and relax. Absolutely. Sometimes these post-game shows, at least for my wife will say it outright. Like, these are needed, at least on my end. All right, guys, make sure you're following Eagles Pinpool wherever you find your podcasts. He is Shane Haff at Shane Haff NFL. My man, Johnny, at Johnny Page 9. I am Dives, Mr. Crackpot. We'll see you around. For all our shows across the board. He is Shane. That is Johnny. I am Dives. Eagles move to 11-2. We'll see you on the next post game and halftime. Stay awesome, everyone.